You've been misled your whole life. They told you self-pleasure was filthy, that by the time you hit 50, you should have left it behind. But here's the truth no one shared. After 60, masturbation isn't just acceptable, it could mean the difference between staying vibrant and slowly fading. I've spent over 3 decades caring for men just like you. My name is Dr. Juan James, and I'm a urologist as well as a professor of men's health at Baylor College of Medicine. I've witnessed firsthand the silent toll of shame, neglect, and misinformation. Too many men suffer not because of disease, but because of what they were never told. The reality is, most older men either do it the wrong way, or worse, give it up completely. What they don't realize is that the way you touch yourself, how often, and with what mindset can impact your hormones, your circulation, even your brain. Yes, a single act, done carelessly, can set you up for erectile problems, depression, and prostate troubles. Done the right way, it can raise testosterone, improve sleep, and keep your blood vessels alive and responsive. This isn't simply about pleasure. It's about preserving function, restoring connection, and resisting aging right at the level of your nervous system. In a moment, I'll share 7 overlooked truths about masturbation that every man over 60 should have been taught years ago. But before that, ask yourself this. If one simple part of your daily routine held a secret to better health, brighter mood, and renewed vitality, wouldn't you want to know it? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal could change how you live the next decade of your life. And before we continue, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss future science-backed insights made for men in your stage of life. If this resonates, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0. Your feedback helps me create the right content for you. Now let's dive in, starting with the first truth most men never realize until it's already taken a toll. Because the way you've been masturbating for years, maybe decades, might feel normal, even harmless. But after 60, what once seemed routine can quietly start to undermine your health. This is where we begin, with the most overlooked mistake older men make around self-pleasure. It's quiet, it's hidden, and over time, it costs more than you realize. Secret number 1. Mindless masturbation can lead to numbness and erectile dysfunction, one of the most destructive forces undermining your health today. For decades, many of you grew up being told that touching yourself was shameful, sinful, or weak. You were mocked, punished, or left feeling humiliated. And those early beliefs didn't vanish. They sank deep inside, stored in your nervous system, etched into your very bones, quietly shaping how you relate to your own body even now. The outcome is a slow retreat. You start pulling back from physical touch, even when your body longs for it. You begin to think a desire is something inappropriate or forbidden. You stop reaching for yourself, not because the urge is gone, but because you were trained to believe you shouldn't. And as time passes, that break isn't just emotional. It becomes biological. Here's what most men don't realize. Consistent, healthy sexual touch, including self-pleasure, has measurable benefits for mental health. It regulates cortisol, lifts dopamine, increases oxytocin, the hormone of trust and bonding. It even supports better sleep, steadier mood, and sharper cognition. But shame interrupts all of this. Shame tightens your muscles, drives up stress hormones, and creates endless guilt loops in your mind, often so automatic you barely notice. Shame is a stressor, and chronic stress has been linked to anxiety, depression, cardiovascular disease, immune weakness, and even dementia. I remember a patient, 72, recently divorced and deeply depressed. He wasn't on medication, had no serious illnesses, yet he felt drained, numb, and isolated. He admitted he hadn't engaged in any sexual activity, neither with a partner nor alone, for over 10 years. "I thought that chapter of my life was closed," he said. Behind those words was a quiet grief, not for the absence of sex itself, but for the absence of self. We worked gently together. No prescriptions, no drastic interventions, just simple practices to reconnect him to his body without guilt, without expectation. Within weeks, something shifted. His posture straightened. He slept soundly. He laughed again. His blood pressure dropped. He wasn't suddenly cured, but he was reconnected. That's a hidden cost of shame. It robs your vitality 1 inch at a time. It convinces you that you're too old to feel alive. But the truth is, you are never too old to touch yourself with care, with dignity, with purpose. You are never too old to feel whole. And if shame can steal that much from you, imagine what happens when hormonal decline adds to the weight. Because here's a fact most men never see coming. Testosterone doesn't only fall because of age. It falls faster when you abandon your sexual self completely. And when that hormonal balance starts tipping, it impacts far more than libido. It changes the way you think, move, and live. That's the next truth we need to uncover. If you're still here and this is resonating, type the number 1 in the comments so I know you're with me. Now, let's continue with the fourth insight. This one may surprise you. Secret number 4. Testosterone is fueled by sexual activity, even solo. Here's something few men discover until it's almost too late. Something I wish every man over 60 could hear without embarrassment. Testosterone, the hormone that drives your vitality, energy, strength, confidence, and desire, doesn't simply decline because of age. That's the story you've been told. But after decades of working with men, here's what I've learned. Testosterone also falls when you stop living like a man who still wants to feel alive. When you bury or ignore sexual energy under years of shame and inactivity, your body starts turning down the dial on masculinity. It concludes, he doesn't need this anymore, and begins conserving energy, slowing blood flow, shifting hormones elsewhere. Muscle shrinks, fat accumulates, sleep quality drops, and that spark, that edge that once made you feel like yourself, starts slipping away. Not because you're old, but because your body isn't being reminded that you're still here, still capable of desire. I remember Frank, 73, a retired firefighter who had once been all strength and presence. When he came to see me, he was slouched, weary, and admitted he hadn't felt like himself in years. "I'm just slowing down," he said. But his lab work told another story. His testosterone was barely above deficiency. When I asked about sexual activity, he shook his head. "I don't see the point anymore." That belief, more than age, was a real danger. I guided Frank to re-engage, not with a partner, but with himself. Simple, shame-free practices, done with presence. Over months, not only did his hormone levels improve, but his stance grew taller, his voice gained authority, he began exercising again, and his eyes lit up with renewed energy. The body responds to what you pay attention to. Ignore your sexual self, and testosterone will retreat. Reawaken it, even with intentional solo touch, and your brain gets a message. I still need this. I still want to feel. The brain responds by reactivating systems that had gone quiet. And this isn't just theory. Studies show short-term boosts in testosterone after sexual stimulation, even solo. Erotic thought, physical engagement, even anticipation, all influence hormone regulation, mood, and drive. Your body is built to respond to pleasure, connection, and presence. But when you give it nothing, it slowly stops giving back. The price is steeper than most realize. Low testosterone doesn't just mean fatigue or low libido. It's linked to heart disease, diabetes, depression, cognitive decline, even shorter lifespan. It's not just a number. It's a mirror of how engaged you are with life. And the harsh reality? Most men don't realize how far they've drifted until returning feels nearly impossible. But there's a path back, and it doesn't start with pills or surgery. It starts by reclaiming your connection to your own body, in your own space, free from guilt. It's about reminding your biology that you're still in the game. And if that surprises you, wait until you hear what's next. Because beyond testosterone lies something even more crucial, something most men are damaging without knowing it every time they touch themselves the wrong way. Secret number 5, erectile function is a use it or lose it system. Here's a quiet myth many men adopt after 60. If I'm not having sex, then I don't need erections anymore. I've heard it countless times. But here's the truth doctors rarely spell out. Erections aren't just about sex. They're about circulation, nerve integrity, vascular health, and overall longevity. I once worked with Harold, 69, sharp man, solid background. He had gone 5 or 6 years without a single erection, not because he couldn't, but because he thought he had no reason to. His wife had passed, he wasn't dating, and he assumed that chapter of life was done. What he didn't realize was that his body wasn't waiting for him, it was shutting down. The penis, like any muscle or vascular system, needs use. Without it, elasticity declines, blood vessels stiffen, oxygen delivery drops, and scar tissue begins forming. Eventually, when you do want it again, the response isn't there. Not because of age, but because of disuse. This is where the cost gets deep. When erections stop happening, smooth muscle in the penis begins to atrophy. The fine network of blood vessels that create fullness weakens. Nitric oxide, the chemical spark that initiates erections, dwindles. And here's what no one tells you. This happens regardless of whether you're trying to be sexually active. It's simple biology. If your body doesn't experience arousal and engorgement, it assumes the system is obsolete. Over time, the damage is both physical and psychological. As function slips, so does confidence. Identity erodes. Depression and even cognitive slowing creep in. I've seen it again and again, not suddenly, but gradually, silently, and completely avoidable. So what's the solution? You must remind your body that this system still matters. You can do that without a partner, without pressure, and without shame. Regular erections, through self-stimulation or even non-sexual arousal, keep blood flowing, tissues oxygenated, and nerve pathways active. This isn't just about chasing pleasure. It's about maintaining a vital piece of your health and your sense of self. Erections are a message to your body. I'm still alive, still engaged, still here. I know how easy it is to go quiet, especially when society tells you men your age should fade into silence. But silence is costly, and your body records every bit of it. Now, if erections are that important, you might be wondering what else could be sabotaging your ability to have them naturally. And that leads us to something even more damaging than inactivity, a modern addiction that rewires the brain without most older men realizing it. In the next section, we'll explore how pornography, even the so-called harmless kind, can quietly steal your sensitivity, your arousal, and your joy. Secret number 6. Porn reshapes your brain, but you can take back control. I've had men in their 60s and 70s sit across from me and admit they still watch porn. Not because they're addicted, but because it's one of the only ways they can still feel something. Many of them live alone. Some are divorced. Others are widowed. They aren't chasing thrill. They're reaching for connection, or at least memory of it. But here's the problem. The pornography available today is nothing like what you first saw in your 20s. Back then, it was static images or suggested cues. Now, it's an endless stream of high-speed, high-intensity, instant gratification content. And your brain, especially as it ages, isn't designed to handle that level of stimulation without consequences. Each time you watch porn, particularly the fast, extreme kind, your brain floods with dopamine, the chemical tied to reward, drive, and pleasure. But repeated exposure gradually dulls your natural response. Suddenly, the simple touch of real life doesn't do much. You start needing more intensity, more novelty, more extremes just to feel anything. This isn't just about taste. It's about neurochemistry. It's about your brain being rewired by repetition. And when your brain adapts to artificial stimulation, your body follows. Erections weaken. Orgasms become difficult. Some men even experience porn-induced erectile dysfunction, able to perform only with porn, not with a real partner, not even alone without it. The fallout goes far beyond sex. I've seen men sink into shame, anxiety, and despair. They start believing something is wrong with them. They withdraw. They feel defeated. And the cruelest part? They don't realize the very thing they are turning to for relief is the same thing slowly draining their vitality. But here's what I want you to know. This is not permanent. You're not broken. You can retrain your brain. Even past 60, your nervous system can reset, heal, and rediscover what natural arousal feels like. That healing begins when you step away from artificial highs and return to real presence, your own body, your breath, your imagination, even simple stillness. Some men take a 30-day break from all visual stimulation. Others reduce slowly. What matters is you begin rebuilding your nervous system connection to pleasure on your own terms. The goal isn't to give up pleasure. It's to reclaim it, to make it yours again, to feel something genuine. And if porn has dulled your sensitivity, the next secret is even more critical. Because while digital content can hijack your brain, isolation can hijack your spirit. And the final truth may be the most important of all. Not about hormones or habits, but about what happens when a man stops being touched altogether. Secret number 7. The most dangerous mistake: isolation. Of all the risks men face as they age, none is more destructive than isolation. More than low testosterone, more than porn, more than any symptom you can measure. I'm not only talking about living alone. I mean the deeper silence, the absence of touch. When you stop being touched, when you stop touching yourself, when you disconnect from your body, not out of choice but out of conditioning, you set yourself on a path toward decline. I recall Peter, 76, a retired engineer, polite, well-kept, but hollow in his tone. He told me he hadn't been physically touched in over a year. Not a handshake, not a hug, nothing. He didn't say it sadly. He said it like it was just the way things were now. But here's the truth. Touch is not a luxury. It's a biological need. At 60, 70, even 80, your body is still wired for it. When you go too long without physical contact, your nervous system begins shutting down. Oxytocin drops. Stress hormones rise. Blood pressure climbs. Sleep falters. Immunity weakens. And worst of all, your brain begins closing off emotional and sensory pathways to protect you from the ache of absence. In short, without touch, you grow numb, physically, emotionally, spiritually. This doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, subtle. One day you skip your small rituals. A week later you avoid mirrors. A month later, you no longer imagine pleasure at all. And here's what no one admits. This isolation often starts in the bedroom. When a man stops touching himself, not for lust, but for connection, for presence, his brain reads that as retreat. Over time, the withdrawal becomes habit. He touches himself less, feels less, believes there's nothing left to feel. That's the true cost. Not just weaker erections or faded desire. It's a quiet loss of identity, purpose, vitality. It's the slow death of connection. And isolation is no small risk. It's been linked directly to depression, heart disease, and even premature death. Not because of age, but because of abandonment. Not abandonment by others, but by the self. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about blame. Life happens. Loss happens. Distance happens. But surrender doesn't have to. Because touching yourself, whether sexual or not, isn't about indulgence. It's about claiming your body is still yours. It's about telling your nervous system, I'm still here. I still matter. I still want to feel. I've seen men come alive again simply by giving themselves permission to reconnect. Their posture straightens. Their voice gains weight. Their spark returns. And if you've stayed with me this far, then what comes next may be the most important step. Because now that you've heard the 7 truths no one ever told you, I'm going to show you how to begin again. With a simple daily practice I teach my own patients. A ritual designed to rewire your body, rebuild sensitivity, and restore what time and silence tried to take away. Conclusion. If you've made it to this point, I want to speak not just as a doctor, but as a man who has listened to countless men share their fears, regrets, and fragile hopes. What we've explored here isn't really about masturbation. It's about something far deeper, how you see your body, how you carry your story, and whether you're willing to believe your life, your sexual, emotional, and physical life, isn't over just because the world said it should be. We began with the truth that mindless masturbation can rewire your brain into dysfunction, leaving you numb and disconnected. We looked at how avoiding release entirely can congest the prostate, inflame it, and even raise cancer risk. We uncovered the hidden poison of shame, guilt inherited from culture and family that has no rightful place in a healthy man's life. We examined testosterone, showing that decline is not just about age, but about disengagement, and how even solo touch can revive it. We revealed that erections are not just for sex, but a measure of vascular and neurological health, a system you must use or lose. We opened the door on porn, not to condemn, but to explain its effects on brain chemistry and sensitivity. And finally, we confronted the most dangerous mistake of all, isolation. The quiet surrender that steals connection, confidence, and life itself. Here's what I want you to hold on to. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are not invisible. Every system in your body is still wired for connection. Your brain still craves feeling. Your skin still longs for touch. Your heart still wants to open. And that path back doesn't require a partner. It starts with you. It starts with choosing not to shrink, not to apologize, not to believe the lie that aging makes you irrelevant. You are not irrelevant. You're still here, and what you do with that matters. That's why I give my patients a simple practice, a ritual I call the Golden Protocol. 10 minutes a day. Quiet, intentional, respectful time to reconnect with themselves. No agenda, no pressure, just touch, breath, and awareness. For some, it becomes a morning habit. For others, a nighttime reset. But for nearly all, it becomes a turning point. Because when a man touches himself with care, not out of boredom, not out of desperation, but with presence, something awakens. His body remembers. His mind relaxes. His spark returns. This journey isn't just about reclaiming sexuality. It's about reclaiming yourself. And that begins not tomorrow, not next week, but right here, right now, with U.F.